everybody, my name is Solus Convoy and welcome back to another review. Thanks as always for tuning in. Today I'm taking a look at Newage H44B, Clover, third version of Shattered Glass Grimlock. Let's take a quick look at the box. So the box is, I believe, a reference to Dinosaur, I think. I'll double check later, but yeah, a pretty cool box, you know. Picture the figure, etc. Yeah, let's take that away. Get back in on Clover himself. So off rip, I think what'll draw you to Clover immediately is this new chest design, which is based on the original classic Grimlock toy from 2006, which was the original basis of the Shattered Glass design. So that remolding is pretty awesome. I think a Shattered Glass Maximal, maybe a purple Maximal logo or a purple Dinobot logo would go hard right there. Nice orange, nice teal highlights. The figure is this nice glossy gray with a flat black plastic. Pretty clean, you know, typical Grimlock backpack. Of course, the unsightly legs, we'll talk about those. I am not using the leg covers in this review. I believe it's best to just look at this toy as it is instead of using the leg covers. And let's get in close on the head sculpt. And this is definitely a head sculpt we should talk about because it does look very, very good. It's all in black, so some of the details will be a bit hard to show up, but the eyes are painted really well. There's these small teeth. I can't focus on them. There's small teeth details next to the sides of his mouth right there that look really nice. Or not his mouth, his faceplate. And of course the shaping, you know, is based on the IDW head for More Than Meets the Eye or Maximum Dinobots, and it's really cool to see. We never really got an IDW version of this mold, so I was surprised they only used it for the Shattered Glass version, but it does look fantastic. Overall, I think the mold has some proportional issues when you look at it straight on. His shoulders, I don't know, his shoulders don't seem too small. It's just the legs kind of feel a bit too thin without the covers, especially from the back. They just have this weird shape. They feel really long, and his chest feels really small. There's a bit of a weird proportional design going on right there. So there's something about his proportions that just does not work for me. Taking a look at his articulation, however, he is fairly articulated, starting from the head. He does have a nice ball joint, which can look all the way forward, all the way up, 360, and pretty good side to side. You can also untab this neck for more up, but you don't really need to do that. He already gets enough up as is. His shoulders go up to here. You know, you have a 360 on a swivel. They clash with the back, of course. They do not untap for butterflies, unfortunately. His elbows, you have about 90 degrees, but then you can extend for, I think, 150. You have a wrist swivel, and then you can also untab, and access some vertical wrist tilt. Doesn't look pretty for sword wielding poses. So you can just push the arms back in to your desired length, whatever works for you. You have this really nice ab crunch, 90 degrees, no back. You have an unhindered 360 waist swivel. There are hip skirts here, so he's not using the new hip design that their Dinobots have. Swoop also has hip skirts, but it's for a different reason. So even with the hip skirts kicked all the way up, you kind of have to, because of the sculpting, it's difficult to show up if it's all in black. Because of this sculpting right here, you do kind of have to utilize the thigh swivel as you go up if you want the maximum kick, but it's not really 90. He does not get 90 on the kick, which I thought was strange. And there's not really a way to like cheat more. Of course, you have an ab crunch that's really deep, so it doesn't matter for most poses, but I thought I'd just point that out. He also has back hip skirts, and ironically, I think he does get more back than he does get forward. But it's not a huge issue because of the ab crunch. Knees, you have a thigh swivel as well. That gets you a solid range and is well hidden. Knees are a bit weird. You do have 90 up here. There's a second joint here, but utilizing it still only really gets you like maybe 95. You have an ankle tilt, which is on a giant die cast toe, which is really sturdy, which is nice, gets you 90, which is always great. And then you can kind of cheat. Like you can tilt his foot forward, right? So you can tilt his foot forward, and then you can kind of cheat with the panels to get more vertical range with his foot, you know. You can do stuff like that, etc. So you can just mess around with that panel to access as much vertical range as you want. So he is pretty posable, but nothing that really blows you away, except for maybe the ab crunch. Let's just talk about the legs right now. I don't actually mind the leg kibble. It's not super visible in the shattered glass version because it's all in gray and the black shadows hide it pretty well, but it does look a bit unfinished and his shins do look skinny without the leg covers, I will comment, but I'm not going to put them on because they came with a different toy that cost $70 and I don't think that's really fair. You guys will get 3D printed ones, but yeah, there's plenty of pictures of them on, but I'm not going to do that because I want to review this release on its own merits. Let's go on to accessories. He only has one pair of alternate hands, which is typical for modern Newage, and they are just open hands. They are the new, nicer sculpt, but unfortunately they don't have hinges, which is really odd because these are massive and he came out after David. So he has no hinged hands when the other Dinobots all do, which is really disappointing. He has this flame breath effect that you can put onto this handle that's included, and he can hold it like a sword, but it does feel more like a club. And then yeah, you can hold that, and you can mistransform his elbow or his arm to give him vertical wrist tilt. And then he also has a blaster. Let me just show you. It's based on the G1 toy blaster. Oops, sorry guys. It's based on the G1 toy blaster. Does not have a missile. Has zero paint. It's just flat plastic. He does not have the double-barreled gun, by the way, which is fine for this release because he doesn't need to have it. But just pointing out they are being a bit stingy. These are chrome, by the way. These nice claws are chrome, and they are very fun. But yeah, just a flat black gun, kind of disappointing. So accessories are really nothing to write home about. Just one pair of hands, sword, gun. That's pretty much it. Or sword / breath effect. Let me get you guys a size comparison for this guy in a sec. Be right back. So here we have a robot mode size comparison. Newage Behemoth or Shattered Glass Sludge. Subject of our review, Clover. Newage Toruk or Shattered Glass Swoop. Legends Flak from Cyberverse Dark from the Moon, and a buzzworthy deluxe trooper. So he's about deluxe sized, shorter than Sludge, obviously taller than Swoop, and I don't have the next Dinobot, and Snarl isn't even out. So yeah, that's our bot mode size comparison. Alright, so here we have him in his alternate mode for a janky size comparison. Here's a Legends class Flak, here's a deluxe G2 trooper, so he's about deluxe sized. There's Behemoth and Toruk, so you can get an idea of size. Toruk is pretty huge in his wingspan, so he's gonna look pretty big, but I'm just gonna move everyone out of the way. Just take a look at Clover on his own. So this is a pretty good dino mode. It does look nice, there's no visible issues or kibble, just the chest plate shows up here. The sculpting is pretty good. He features a unique, like brand new head sculpt, like with these, or at least this one piece is brand new, and it's kind of like a more aggressive ridge or eyebrows. Sometimes it can be hard for his eyes to show up unless you have the light shining on them directly. But he does look pretty good. Now, unfortunately, in terms of articulation, he does have this nice neck. He can look forward about that far, so you can do like a swimming pose. His arms, where we get to issues, you have these are on a swivel and a hinge, so they can swivel all the way around, and then hinge back and forth, and then hinge here. But there's no bicep swivel, and he has ball jointed wrists. So the lack of a bicep swivel means you can't really point his arms forward. He's constantly stuck doing stuff like this. And then you come down here and his legs can hinge out. These can go 360 uncompromised. But unfortunately, his knees are backwards. And I've actually thought about punching out these and swapping them so he would have, you know, working knees with the toes in front. But just a bit of an oversight, I think, from Newage here. And Grimlock was the debut of the fantastic Dino Tail, which gets you a solid, you know, range side to side and looks fantastic doing it. The segmented Dino Tail, so that's fantastic. The other Dinobots also have that. So the posability is a bit of a bummer. Overall, it does look good, but it is really limited in posability compared to his other Dinobot friends. It doesn't feel like a revolution in terms of posability, and there's a lot of joints they could have added here that wouldn't have interfered with the transformation. It does not feel as impressive next to some of his other Dinobot friends, and I don't even have Slag yet, who is supposed to be even more impressive in terms of Dino mode articulation. So it is pretty, it is cute, you know, you can kind of get him into like some little scratching his head, you know, whatever, you know, confused, but compared to the other Dinobots, especially for the Shattered Glass set, he does not feel really intimidating. He does have one accessory feature where if you open his mouth, you know, you can kind of get this peg. There's a peg in there, and if you manage to get this peg up, you can plug in the blast effect. So it does look pretty nice. But again, it's a sword repurposes the blast effect, or the blast effect repurposes a sword. You kind of wish that they included just a blast effect and a sword, you know, for the price point. And you can also store his cannon, which is nice. I know some people love weapon storage. Just like the G1 toy, you can store his cannon right there. It's not the greatest fit, but you know. So yeah, that's my look at the alternate mode, and I'll be back in a bit with my final thoughts. Alright guys, starting off my final thoughts here. There's not much to say about Newage Clover that hasn't been said, but a lot of it is praise. It is a good toy, let's not kid ourselves. It's executed well, it poses pretty well, the articulation is standard, but not excellent. The quality and the build finish, the materials are all top notch, it has great hand feel. It's a really nice, solid thing in Dino mode. It's really fun to handle. But the articulation is lacking in both modes compared to their Dinobots. Bot mode, not so much, but definitely in Dinosaur mode, it just feels a bit disappointing. The articulation is not the biggest issue, though, in my opinion. This doesn't feel innovative as much. The tail is definitely a new innovation that every Dinobot, except for Swoop, is using. But other than the tail, which is universal, and the leg transformation mechanic, which is cool and Sludge also uses, it doesn't maximize these engineering motifs, I think. The transformation is really simple, and it has some parts that are new, but those are just general new engineering parts. It doesn't reinvent what it means to be a Grimlock. It is very much just a Grimlock. And for some people, that's fine. But compared to the rest of the set at the price point, these issues and nitpicks start to add up, you know, like the accessories are limited, but that's a general thing for the whole set. Like I had Swoop holding Sludge's sword, actually, so the accessories are limited, but even in that context, you know, like the hands aren't hinged, despite the fact the hand hinged mold was already available at this point in time. This was after David. The bicep swivel on the Dino mode is non-existent, which is annoying for posing. The knees are backward, which is annoying for posing. The legs feel unfinished, which is annoying for posing. There's just like a cascade of minor issues that hurt this guy, whereas in comparison to his teammates, a lot of whom feel fantastic and feel like the best version of that character may have ever gotten at any scale, right? A lot of people think that for Sludge and for Swoop. I mean, Newage Swoop has an ab crunch, for crying out loud, and the waist swivel and swoop is already like a big enough challenge because of the design. So I think just people think about that. Grimlock is not super new. The Magic Square version seems to do a lot more new engineering, but it is Magic Square, and I doubt they'll pull off a deco that's nice with this remolding. Talking about Clover in specific, I love the Classics chest. That's the main reason I got this. I love the throwback to Classics toys. I love the head sculpt. The head sculpt is actually magnificent. So this is definitely my favorite version of the mold. But again, compared to their Dinobots, I don't think it's the best. I don't even think it's in the top 3. I think this guy and Snarl are going to be duking out for who's the worst Dinobot in videos next year once all 5 have come out. I don't know about a combine or whatever. Don't ask me about that. No, I'm not going to comment on that fiasco. But I do think this guy and Snarl will be duking it out for who's the worst Dinobot. And I think this guy might take the Raspberry throne because he just has a lot of issues. And they're small, minor issues. They don't take away from him being a good toy, but compared to other toys that are executed really well, it's difficult. This is not a bad release for Newage at all. They've released way worse. But compared to the other Dinobots, who are some of their absolute best ever, it does feel a bit lacking, and that's all I'm going to say on the matter. If you like this guy, despite his shortcomings, I'd say go for it. He's fun, he's posable, he's a good time. And if those issues are too much for you, then maybe you can pass on it. I don't think a Newage Ymir or Clover or whatever they call these other repaints is a must-have mold. I don't think you need to have it. But if you are a Newage collector and you like Grimlock, it's a no-brainer. Alright guys, that's all I have for today. Soulless Convoy. Catch y'all later. Peace out.